Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that, let's be honest, we've all been through. Team changes. But what if we could stop seeing them as this big, disruptive headache and start seeing them as a natural, predictable, and even powerful part of how we do our best work? Let's get into it.
You know the feeling, right? The email lands in your inbox, a reorg gets announced, and suddenly your team is getting shuffled around. It just feels so abrupt, so messy, and completely out of your control. But what if there's a better way to think about what's actually going on?
Okay, so the very first thing we have to do is just accept a fundamental truth about work today. The team shuffle isn't some weird exception, it's the rule.
I mean, just think about any team you've ever been a part of. Did it stay exactly the same with all the same people forever? Yeah, probably not. People get promoted, they leave for new jobs, new folks get hired. This state of constant flux is just, well, it's reality.
And this is the big reframe. This is the core idea. What if, instead of constantly fighting against this tide of change, we could learn to see the patterns in it? What if we could actually learn to navigate it and maybe even use it to our advantage?
To really get a handle on this cycle, we're going to borrow a powerful idea from a totally different place, ecology. Turns out the life cycle of a forest has a ton to teach us about the life cycle of a team.
You see, in nature, an oak forest goes through these four really distinct phases. It starts with birth, an acorn sprouts. Then it moves into adolescence, which is all about rapid growth. That leads to maturity, where the forest is dense and really established. But eventually, some big disruptive event, like a wildfire, comes along and brings what ecologists call creative destruction. It clears out all the old stuff to make way for the new.
And here's the key, right? This ecocycle idea isn't just for forests. It's an incredible mental model that we can apply directly to our teams at work. It gives us a language and a framework for making sense of all this change.
And this isn't just a theory. Check out this perfect real-world example from the tech company AppFolio. Their first engineering team was born back in 2007. Then it went into a huge growth phase, adding people one by one. And eventually, it hit maturity, what you could call a rigidity trap. Meetings were taking forever, and making any decision was painfully slow. So what was the solution? Creative destruction. They split that one massive team into two smaller, more focused teams, which let them start the whole cycle all over again, but fresh and energized.
So that grow and split pattern we just saw is one of the most common ways teams evolve. The big question then becomes, how do you know when your team is actually ready for that kind of creative destruction?
Luckily, there are some really concrete signals to watch for. I'm talking about things like, are your daily stand-ups suddenly taking 45 minutes instead of 15? Does every single decision turn into this huge, long debate? Are little subgroups starting to form to work on totally separate projects? Or maybe, especially if you're working remotely, do you find yourself looking at the screen and wondering, wait, who is that person again? These are all huge signs your team might have outgrown its current shape.
I mean, listen to this quote from an early engineer at AppFolio. It just nails that feeling, doesn't it? That simple 15-minute meeting becomes impossible, and the sheer effort of just keeping everyone on the same page starts to crush any benefit of being one big team.
So if you're seeing those signs, how do you actually do the split? Well, the most important thing is you have to do it with respect for the people involved. You don't just hand down a decision from on high. You get the team involved. You ask them questions. You make the why behind the change crystal clear. You work with them to define exciting new missions for the new teams. You give people a say in where they end up. And you help them build totally new identities.
And the difference here is like night and day. A top-down decision feels like something that's being done to you. It's disempowering, and it almost always leads to resentment. But when you get the team involved in solving its own structural problem, that creates incredible buy-in and a real sense of ownership from day one. Honestly, the easiest, most successful splits are almost always the ones the team helps figure out for itself.
Which, brings us to maybe the most important part of this whole process. We can't just treat reteaming like we're moving pieces on a chessboard. We have to acknowledge the very real, very human emotions that are all wrapped up in this.
This story is just wow. It really gets to the heart of it. A team at a company called Unruly felt their upcoming split so deeply they actually made a cake to mark the moment, and they called it the breaking of this fellowship. It just goes to show you the powerful bonds we form at work and the very real sense of loss that can come with these changes.
So it's so important to acknowledge that feeling of loss. It's real, and it's totally okay to feel it. But you know what happened to that Unruly team? They were actually surprised to find they were much happier after the split. Their meetings were faster, they were way more focused, and they got a lot more done. The pain of the change was temporary, but the benefits were really lasting.
And a huge part of moving past that sense of loss is building a brand new identity. This is a chance for renewal. And honestly, one of the most powerful ways to do that is just let the new teams name themselves. At Appfolio, this led to this amazing culture of hilarious, nerdy team names like Diff Leopard, Hex Pistols, and Saving Private Repo. And this isn't just silly fun, it's a super powerful act of creating a new sense of belonging and ownership.
All right, so let's zoom out one last time for the big picture. We've seen how this eco-cycle works for a single team, but the reality is actually even more dynamic than that.
Okay, so stick with me because this is where it gets really cool. Those eco-cycles we were talking about, they aren't just happening to your team. They're happening all the time on all these different levels, nested inside each other. There's a concept from ecology for this called panarchy.
Just think about it. There's an eco-cycle happening for you as an individual, as you learn and grow in your career. There's one happening at the team level, as your team grows and splits. And then there's this much bigger, slower-moving one at the company level, as it grows or pivots or maybe gets acquired. All of these cycles are turning at different speeds, all at the same time.
And here's the real insight, the kind of mind-blowing part. This isn't just a recipe for chaos. The stability of those bigger, slower cycles, like a really strong company culture or a clear shared mission, can actually act as an anchor. It can support the faster, more dynamic changes happening at the team level, giving people the safety they need to adapt and experiment.
And that brings us to the final and most important takeaway. It means we've been chasing the wrong thing all along. The quest for a perfectly stable, never-changing team, it's a losing battle. It's not realistic. The real goal, the true advantage, is to stop fighting change and start building our collective muscle for it. The goal is to get really, really good at adapting.
It all comes down to what Heidi Helfand, the author of the book Dynamic Reteaming, puts so perfectly. Team change is inevitable. You might as well get good at it. By understanding these natural cycles, we can stop feeling like we're just victims of chaos and start becoming skilled navigators of change. Thanks for digging into this with me.